Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect the week's MCU releases. My name's English Dave, and joining me to harmonize in this powerful rock ballad we call a podcast is my co-host, Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, David?
Are you ready to rock with me?
I'm ready. Blood of Jesus.
We're here to talk Agatha All Along, episode 4, titled If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. And if you haven't realized by now, each episode's title so far has been a lyric from the Winding Road song.
Hmm.
Have you
Did
noticed that?
not know that.
Andrew, you're supposed to be paying
I
attention.
had no idea. Wow, color me shocked.
Yes, these are all lyrics from the song. Then we found out this episode that there's been, different iterations of the song,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them gets center focus in this episode. The synopsis
Yes.
is as follows: The Coven faces their second trial on the Witch's Road. Andrew, no spoilers. This is our second trial. What did you think?
This one was a stark contrast to last episode, which I think we're expecting, right? It's taking on that element of severe severe difference in each of the trials, which is nice. I think the best thing this show has going for it for me is the complete creative freedom, right? Like literally don't know what to expect. You kind of take it as it comes. But I think they're slowly peeling back some of the history of some of the characters in nice ways. And they're not necessarily giving us everything at once, right? It's like they're answering some questions, but then like painting more doubt in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get to see some depth in the characters' interactions, right? Which is setting up some interesting tension here and there. So I think solid episode. The show continues to do well for me. Like I said, I'm still curious as to some of the final answers and how they tie everything together. But I think the show is doing a good job of continuing to be entertaining, while just being like completely free to do whatever they're doing. And yeah, Agatha, great acting as always.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start off by saying I think for me, what makes this show work is the cast. The cast
Mm-hmm.
is so well done. They play the characters really well. I
Yep.
believe them. I believe their purpose and their motivations. I think they all nail it perfectly. I think this episode made me feel better about the show because they took a while to get to what the show's about, which is the trials on the Witch's Road. That this is like it's episode
Yeah.
4, but it's only the second trial, right? And so now that we're getting into the kind of motions of what the trials entail, and in sense of okay, each trial is going to focus on a different witch. They're going to go through something personal. Now I'm
Yeah.
into the show more
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
get to, like you said, we get to learn about them more. We get to learn about them through literal means, but we get to learn
Yeah.
about people through subtle means,
Mm-hmm.
little nods here and there, little looks, little camera angles. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of camera angles, I mentioned last week how when they went into the house, the camera aspect ratio changes from film style to TV style. They do that again in this episode. And what I like seeing is that kind of like how WandaVision used its inspiration from different eras of television
Yeah.
and as a way to visualize how the story is told. They do that
Yeah.
in this one. So the camera work is like the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the costume, the look, but the cinematography, the way the camera
Mm-hmm.
moves. It's like a 70s horror show. There's lots of moments where that happens. We can go into spoilers.
Yeah.
So I love that detail. And this is a show I was
Mhm.
reading behind the scenes about it. And they were saying how, Marvel's recently restructured. Now they have Marvel Television. And
Mhm.
Agatha is that first product of that. And
Yeah.
part of that was not everything has to be movie scale and movie budget. When you have everything at movie budget, which is like a season at $200 million, now there's extra pressure for it to be like the biggest hit in the world. A billion eyes have to be on this because we spent so much money. Whereas like Agatha reportedly was something like $60 to $70 million for the season. And so there's less pressure. So it's like, do what you want. We don't need the whole world to watch it for it to be a
Yeah.
success.
It's just
And
enough.
so when that pressure is gone, it gives you creative freedom
Mhm.
to kind of have a bit of fun and not have to be beholden to the larger narrative.
Mhm.
And I think this show is taking full advantage of that. because it's not a visual effects heavy show,
Yeah.
but it's telling these character stories within this fantastical world, right? And so they can kind of play around with things a bit more and take more risks, like have stakes that stick, like we find in
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah. Hmm.
you know, stakes are real and stakes
So
stick,
real.
and they don't. There's no coming back from certain things, and I like that about it. But let's go into spoilers. First thing I want to talk about is right off the gate, they pretty much tell us that uh, Mrs. Hart, aka I keep saying Sharon is Susan. I
Sharon.
keep saying Susan. My wife is like, "What's wrong with you? Why do you keep calling her Susan?" But I call
Who's
her Sharon,
Susan?
but I think that's wrong. That's the thing. I get it right, and then I assume I'm wrong, and then I get it wrong. But they
Double bluff.
establish pretty much that she is dead. Dead. That's it. She's gone. She's not coming back. This is not a
Yeah.
thing. At
Yeah.
least so what it seems like.
At least not in this form.
No.
Like maybe a zombie.
But it seemed to me that Agatha was kind of like, eh.
I'm pretty sure she kicked her body and like like she like she scuffed her out of the way with a little kick.
Right? She's like, yeah, whatever. That's more power for the rest of us.
Hmm.
And then, like, I was like, what? And well, what comes from that is the reveal of Rio. I liked how she came into play, just coming from the ground.
I feel
You
like
know,
we called this, or I mean, it was semi obvious Rio was gonna join them somehow, but
of course,
yeah, this felt like the way, and yeah, always happy to see
disrupt.
Rio.
Oh, she was great, and I
Yeah.
think seeing there's something interesting about Rio because you think she's just there to disrupt everything because at first she doesn't seem to be scared of anything on the road.
Yeah, she
You know,
isn't.
she's not. She's like a demon. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll keep playing my drums.
Yeah, even
You
at the end, she was literally
know.
playing on the piano, whatever she was playing, and she just like the whole
Like,
place was
oh,
going to shit, and she just
he's like,
like,
oh, that's just Bob. I met him the other day.
yeah,
Yeah. But then there's other moments where she seems to kind of care. From say talking about the scar.
hmm
It almost feels like she feels bad for
yeah,
whatever she did between whatever happened between her and Agatha, and even the moment where her and Agatha were about to have a moment and look like they're about to kiss. Instead
yeah.
of letting the kiss happen and enjoying that, she says something that she knows
She's
would break the kiss, which is like, "That's not your son."
yeah, no, that's not your
So
child.
my question to you is: this episode, what does this reveal to you about the relationship between Rio and Agatha?
Um, I don't know how spoilery I'm allowed to get,
I
right?
mean, this is the spoiler section, so
Because this is super spoilers, right? Because Rio is apparently right if we're
those are the
seeing
rumors.
correctly, right?
Those are
That
the
that's why I'm
rumors.
like super spoilery because that would make sense. And just the the scene she was in, like you said, most times was nonchalant,
Hmm.
but then with Agatha, it almost feels like there's something that binds them that is just greater than either of them, or it was just so terrible. I want to know the specifics, right? Because it involves the Darkhold, it involves her child, that's Agatha's child. I
And she
feel
said, I was
probably.
just doing my job.
Mm. Yeah, right. Which again leans into the idea of being like,
Mhm.
even when Teen was stabbed and Rio was approaching her, Agatha was like, not yet. She was
Yeah,
like,
he's like, don't like, don't what? What do you don't
like
don't take him?
don't don't like God damn it. So she's definitely, I feel, or it just makes sense. But yeah, her and Agatha's relationship is it's so interesting the way they play each other because even when Agatha put on the speakerphone when they were
Agatha.
in the yeah, Agatha, I was like what.
Agatha.
Yeah, Agatha, so even when Agatha
You've been in Nigeria lately, huh?
no, no, but it's always in my heart and tongue, clearly.
Uh-huh.
So when Agatha was talking to Rio, right, and she put on the speakerphone to
I
like
love
let
that
the
bit.
others hear how bad she was. Just like they're not friends, they're not allies, but they still have some sort of respect for each other, right?
Mhm.
It's almost
Here's an
like Mhm.
Sorry to cut you off. Here's an interesting
Yeah.
question I want to ask you about that moment because I've been thinking about it. And yeah, at first it's like Agatha, because there's things about Agatha that I'm like, she sometimes comes across as if she's a team player, but then there's lots of moments where she's like, you know what? up,
I
like you
hate you
all
all.
die
Yeah.
and get away. And she
Yeah.
does a good job of balancing that. So it makes you question, why does she press the button? Because it's not like, again, she doesn't care to help the others. So why is
Yeah.
she doing this? Because Rio says something that I didn't notice right away when she says, "What are you doing with them? Ditch them. So at the end, you get your magic, and I'll get my bodies."
Yeah.
And Agatha is like, "What? I would never."
Never. Like,
But her tone is so
yeah.
sarcastic, as if
Sarcastic.
that was my plan. Shut the up. I'm gonna make it
Yeah.
seem as if it's your plan. You know. So I'm curious as
Yeah.
to, is it where Agatha is, because the only time she's ever shown any kind of empathy or any kind of worry
Mm-hmm.
is when it comes to Teen. And
Teen,
do you think
literally,
my
yeah.
wife said my wife had said this, that she thinks because Teen reminds her of her son.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think that's true, and especially because Rio says that's not him,
Yeah.
just because, again, if Rio is, she would know. But I think there's something more there. I just don't know what it is in terms of the
Yeah.
connection of the feeling. What do you think between Agatha and Teen?
I think it could be she thinks he's her son, but it for sure could also just be, maybe he's not my son, but he's filling that void of son, right? he's he's the closest thing that she has to a son, right? In
Mhm,
in her living world. And so I feel like that almost also mixed in with the sigil.
mhm,
Um, the whole the concept of when Teen asks her if she put the sigil on him, and she's like, "Oh, no," but I wouldn't know if I did.
yeah.
I was like, "What?" So I feel like she's also curious in that vein too, because she's like, "Did I put the sigil on him?" Right? Like, so I just feel like all of those just lead to her being like, okay, I'm gonna mama bear this little boy, because he's the only one that even kind of needs protection, right?
Mhm.
He is there because of her, right? So there's also that kind of responsibility. So I feel like everything just in her brain is like, yeah, that's your son, even if he's not your blood son, right? That's your your little witch boy.
My nerd brain, because sometimes we're reminded that this is also a Marvel Universe narrative.
Yeah,
So sometimes we try to use logic, for like real world logic, for our answers.
yeah,
Like, oh, psychologically speaking, she did whatever. Or
yeah,
they could be the Marvel route, where her son died or his soul was taken away, and now his
yeah.
soul is put into this young boy. So his soul is inside this boy, and the physical body is one thing, but the
It,
spirit is her actual son.
funny because comic guess from me was semi the opposite, right? Of this is the body of what would have been her son, but with the spirit
Okay.
of Wanda's son
Oh,
taken
oh.
over, and so now it's yeah, right. It's a crisscross
But either way, some kind of fusion, right, of
of
spiritual magic stuff
with
like that. There's
other
more to this
body.
kid,
Hmm.
right? Because it still begs the question: why is his identity being kept away from witches?
Yeah,
Regardless of what the answer is, that's the fact that we know, right?
yeah,
That his identity is being kept away from all witches in general. So that, but also he has this thing for witches, and we've seen he has a thing for moons. Even his
hmm,
jacket, we finally saw his jacket off, and he has the
yeah,
moon insignia on his sweater.
yeah.
So what is it about him? And he has all the spell book, right, which ends up helping them. He has all that stuff. So
That's the thing. He almost feels like a plant, like
true.
hashtag Mephisto, just because he's saved them. So I don't want to say saved them, but he's been so very pivotal, right, to this journey of theirs. Which whatever, maybe coincidence, but like you're saying, this is a this is a comic book IP, and I just
Mhm,
feel like he's either yes, naturally gifted because he's Wanda or Agatha's child, or somehow has been enchanted by Mephisto or Enchantress, whoever is going to be revealed to
mhm,
be me pulling some strings right
mhm.
behind the scenes. But I'm intrigued. I just I'm making some guesses for fun because it's for some color. Because I would also love a storyline where Wanda put that sigil on him somehow. How? I don't know. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? How do Wanda get in the story? I don't know. Right?
It's comics. They can find a way. Time travel, just before she died, she
That
time
exactly.
traveled and took time to XYZ, and then that's what the red
And
flash
that's
was
what
for.
that flash of light was exactly
There
right.
you go.
Like,
All right, let's go to the main focus of
mm,
the storyline. It was
yes,
Ellie and her narrative with her
Ali.
mother. I
Hmm.
thought I found it interesting that how we kind of get revealed about the lyrics, right? Yeah, from the very beginning, where it was like, "Oh, her mother died on the road," and everyone we
Yeah.
all thought she died on the witch's road. It's like,
On
no,
the
no, she
yeah.
died
No,
literally
like
on
you guys don't tour, do you? Like you don't know what the road
on
is
tour,
on.
like on the road,
Like
not the
ah.
road, but the road. Yes, and we you spoke last week about these witches, how they reacted to things, but aren't they witches? But what I liked about this episode is that yes, they're witches, but they spend a huge part of their life either denying that aspects of themselves or not
Yeah.
believing it's true or kind
Yeah.
of just being told stories for her. And that's
Yeah.
what Ali kind of goes through in this episode, thinking that these are just all stories. We find out more about her mother and the reason for
Hmm.
the song and why her mother wasn't around. She
Yeah.
was literally creating a coven out of all her fans to
Wipes
create this song because of
wipes
the
tear.
generational curse. And the only way to protect her from the curse is to have someone at some place in the world at some moment singing this song. So he had to become a music. Oh my God, what did you think of that story? I thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was a beautiful story thread all the way through, especially because even in this current day, right? Like, I'm Christian and we all know the whole idea of a generational curse is it exists whether you believe in a deity or God or not, right? Because the sins of the father often get repeated on the son is a
Yeah, and
concept we're all kind of familiar with.
sometimes what we call it's just words, right? You can call
Hmm.
it a curse, but also
It can be
someone could call it,
psychology.
yeah, generational trauma,
Yeah, could be
right? If you don't want to call it a
trauma.
curse, it's the same thing. It's essentially
Yeah.
right.
It's like you can't outrun your past, right?
Mm,
Was the idea, and so I enjoyed. I always like stories where it's like face your fears, and that's your fear, and
mhm,
when Ali was like, I can see it, I can kill it. I don't know. I was so I mean, spoiler about me, I hate musicals. Sorry, shoot.
mm.
So like when they started singing again, I was like, oh come on, man. I was like, do something, woman. I was like, come on, man. Use a magic spell, but that aside, my feelings about singing parked. I thought it was nice to again see her get attacked by it, but then it flame up it
Mhm,
was a cool visual, right? Like
mhm.
she still got a little scar, but like I'm not afraid anymore,
Yes,
right? Like
yes,
kind of like Neo at the end of Matrix, like
yes.
face me, I
And
face you.
I think that's what I liked about it because again, what she thought was a birthmark was
Mm,
an initial attack,
yeah,
right? That's what the scar was. And I think the music works for me because one, the road does they don't have the inherent magic, right? They're only stuck on
yeah,
actual spells and
yeah.
the craft part of witchcraft. And so when you get the idea that
So touch on
the song was a spell,
spell. Yeah,
it's like, oh, that makes
that
sense.
was a
I loved
fantastic
how they
touch.
I liked how they, even the way it's visualized, it looked like a 70s rock video with the flames everywhere
Mm-hmm.
and the way they're rocking, you could tell someone did a whole bunch of research
No,
into
hundred
rock
percent.
videos of the time. My only nitpick I was saying to my wife is because she was the focus of that narrative,
Yeah,
I felt like she should have been the lead of the band
yeah.
as opposed to
Not
Agatha
not
being the lead.
Agatha.
You know, I did
Yeah,
like her at the piano, but
yeah.
maybe she could have been singing lead at the piano as opposed to someone else taking lead. That's just my only
Fair
nitpick
enough.
in that
I guess
aspect. But
it's the show reminding us that like yeah you're
yeah,
you're
it's
seeing the
Agatha all
side
along.
story, but it's still a side story for a reason. It's yeah like like
It's Agatha.
honestly I would love, and again I'm going deep in the guessing bag. Like I would love if there are like deeper connection between Agatha and each of them in involving like
Oh,
what
okay.
hurts them the most. Like
Yeah,
somehow
yeah.
Agatha had met her mother.
Hmm, hmm.
Somehow even what's her name Jen,
Hmm.
who we find out a little bit more about what
Yes,
happened
we
with
do.
her, right?
Hmm.
Not enough questions answered, but still like they're dropping more breadcrumbs. So like again, like what's that about? And
Hmm.
I feel like Agatha Mephisto or someone. I'm looking for some extra. I want some wow moments by the end of this
You want your
season.
mind blown. You want to be picking
Yeah,
your
so
brain off the floor.
exactly, you go back and you rewatch, and you're like, wow, so she, it's the butterfly effect.
The demon itself. My wife was like, "What the hell is that? What did you think of the design?" That design was scary.
She was
You
ugly.
just like when you see it, just the ugly, the skin and the red. It
Yeah,
looked it looked like a demon design for a full on horror movie.
it's like get behind me.
You got your crosses out.
I had
Where's the holy
my
water?
holy water already. Cause yeah, it was not cute at all, and
Yeah.
I feel like there. they're really setting us up for some. My guess is they're going to be one episode that's going to be like
Full on
gung
horror.
ho horror. Yeah, just like I'm gonna guess like episode 7, right? Like not the
Yeah.
finale, but just one where it's like this is all dark. This is
Hmm.
because it's slowly been like ramping up in terms of what they're showing us, right? In terms of that
Hmm.
like gory, nasty element.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm intrigued for how they ramp that up because that creature was not cute, and I'm just imagining
Yeah.
like a group of
Oh,
those or like even multiple is like
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's almost like Alien Romulus. Like no
Oh,
no no
yeah.
no 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 no
it
no no.
it definitely does feel like that kind of level. And here's all right. Here's my question to you: Is Agatha has mentioned that she's walked on this road before, and that's the narrative.
She claims. Sorry.
Well, that's my question because I'm starting to believe that maybe she hasn't.
Listen, I listen. Like
What do you
she's
think?
so quick witted with some of her answers, where I'm like, nah, that's bullshit, man. Nah, I can tell you lying, you lying, right?
Where's the receipts?
Exactly. Like based on it's now 4 episodes in, right, and we know you a little bit more. Like I can't trust a single thing you say. Like
She doesn't even know the song properly. She's like Coven,
she doesn't.
Coven two.
She was like, it's true. Everyone's like, it's true.
What? It's
And
true. What do you mean?
which because they did sing true, right? But
Yes, in the song
it's
it was
also
true.
so it's on brand for her to be not aware. But I guess that's why she's kind of the not kind of that's why she's the lead of this show and this is her show because
Hmm.
we know she's not stupid. She's not somebody who you would think is somebody who she's not airheaded. She's not like a forgetful person.
Hmm.
She's so intentional and she's either deflecting or trying to mislead, right?
Hmm.
So like everything she says, I'm literally there squinting, like trying to track her motives, right? Because
Hmm.
especially right after Mrs. Hart died, and she let them know that like, yo, I needed 5 people to open the gate. Now that
Yeah,
we're here, I mean, listen,
and then she's all like, "Someone dies, it's more powerful the rest of us because
yeah, and then it's like,
this
wait,
child
what?
died."
What do you mean more? So it's not even like it's okay. It's actually like preferred, is what you're saying.
Right?
Like, oh, like so basically for me, the odds of them all getting there at the end is what I find interesting, right? But I'm jumping because I was going to shout out Jen because I like that Jen has shown her skills on multiple
Yep.
episodes now, right? Like she made a
The
little
Moonlight.
water moonlight mixture.
Yes.
Um,
Well, two things with Jen. That learning more about her past. She even talks
mhm,
about being how she got tricked into being
mhm,
bound,
yeah,
and she was just trying to help people. I think she mentioned she was a midwife. But
yeah,
like last
some
week,
obstetric gathering.
Jen being one of our black sisters,
Hmm.
she has another moment of a black moment, positive black moment. Last time we talked about her, she was just like, nope.
So like, move
Move.
out
This
the
week
way.
she had a black moment, and she was as soon as Ali, the moment where what's her name, Lilia was being
Hmm.
burnt, and she had to do the circle around her. I love that
Yeah,
Jen was like, me next,
yeah,
me next.
yeah. and, and not just the me next. Like I think they were all fighting in the room or to the
Right?
side, and she was still in the circle, and they were like, "Oh, are you gonna live there now?" She was
Yeah,
like,
she's
"I
like,
mean,
yes.
maybe. I mean,
Shit.
like
Shit.
nobody said it was safe to step out. Like, why would I?"
I
Oh,
love that moment.
that was so good.
Uh, I thought that was great. I love that. Um,
Yeah,
you talked about how we're getting sprinkles of other characters and moments. We
yeah.
get, even though we've seen some of Jen's story, we get more of that, but we also get more of Lila. Is it Lila? Lilia? Lila?
I call her Lilia, man.
Lilia. Um, she get a moment where she's walking through the building and she sees the paintings of the different
Hmm.
ways that witches have been
Hmm.
killed and tortured over time,
And she
and she
hates a stereotype.
she hates it. She talks about
She
the stereotypes
hates.
as well, and how they've
Wow.
been, it really hurts her. So what I like about this show is that the horror moments and the painful moments are very much rooted in traumatic moments. So
Hmm.
it's not just the visual. Even with this demon with Ali, right? It's rooted in the trauma with her mother and the grandmother, generational curse.
Hmm.
And then with Jen, it's rooted in some trauma that we don't know the full story about her being
Hmm.
bound, right?
Yeah.
So the scares aren't just there to be scary.
Yeah. I
It's
know what you
there with some
mean.
kind of trauma. So I'm curious to see
Hmm.
her story going forward in terms of she hates how witches are depicted and how she's visualized. And I like that story because if we connect it to real world stuff, the
Hmm.
idea that this is just a narrative of how a lot of people treated just smart women, right,
Mm-hmm.
around the world. You're a smart woman that goes against the grain, you're a witch. And
Mm.
the test they would do, oh, we're going to drown you. If you die, you're human.
Yeah,
It's like,
like
what?
oh my
So
gosh.
how many people in the world suffered and
Yeah.
died for that? And so what I like is how they depict her pain through something like that, right? And because for the most part, the depictions of witches in this show haven't been evil, killing people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying some haven't done that,
Yeah.
but that's not the general consensus here. And I'm curious to see where it goes in that aspect. Anything else to talk about this episode?
Is it Lilia who like keeps like
Yeah,
randomly like what what?
she'll say something random. I definitely feel that we're going to get episodes in the future where we see the other side of that conversation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's going to click and like, oh, like when she said last week, when she's like, "You have to protect Agatha." Agatha's like, "Yeah, I like
Yeah, 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 yeah. Agatha, she literally ran with that. Like
so,
Agatha would be a great poker player. It's a separate
right,
story. Um, but
but yeah,
yeah,
that
I'm curious
that's definitely.
what that's about because
Mhm.
it's so like it's so specifically placed where it's like what other things are happening and nobody has the time to like delve deeper into that, but
Mhm.
that they're setting us up for something. So I'm curious as to what that's really about.
I find it interesting that Teen wasn't necessarily attacked the same way by the demon, the flames and everything,
Mm,
but just was just
yeah.
knocked through the window.
Yes.
And I don't know if that means anything.
I feel like he's being rejected.
Yeah, something
It's
like that.
almost
That's
like
what I
you're
felt
not
like.
meant to be here,
You're
sir.
not one of them.
like
you know,
what is this?
I'm not going
That's
to put
for an
my
all
focus on
woman
you.
party.
Get out of here. I'm not going to put my because it burns the others in place, but knocks Teen through the window.
And even yet the glass went perfectly through his
Abdomen.
I was gonna say his movie stab location because that's
uh,
that's
that
literally
is that
the
is the movie stab location.
that's if you asked AI to pick one spot in the human body where he'd probably be stabbed in the movie, that was literally it. So um
Stabbed there and shot in the shoulder.
mhm.
He does get shot in the shoulders.
Yeah, just like anyways, those aside. Um some just it's so random, but like every time Rio was around, it just like elevated the show a little bit. So I think in the beginning,
Oh yes,
when she first appeared and she was walking in front of them, and then one of them was like, "Oh, the dangerous but charismatic." No, I think it was Teen. It was like the dangerous but charismatic lady is back, and Jen
yeah.
was like, "Do I hate her or do I want her phone number?" Right? It's just it's like everybody's just like, I don't know who you are, but like you,
I think I love you.
yeah, right? I love you. Get away from me,
When she
please.
says, I'm not a green witch. I am the green
The
witch."
like ooh, ooh
One
the
touch,
voice too.
and the voice is done really. I thought it was done well because in terms of the timing as well, it's just like, oh shit. One touch I liked, and I think it kind of means that no matter how quick they were, it wouldn't have mattered. Was
Yeah,
when they mentioned the fact that, oh wait, Sharon took two drinks
yeah,
and only
yeah,
one
yeah,
sip of the
yeah.
antidote. I
That
like that.
was
I
funny
was like,
because they
oh
were all blaming each other,
yeah.
and and Teen was like, "It's everybody's fault." But then you're right. Lilia was like, if we're being specific, I'm just saying it was 2 doses of drink, and so yeah,
Yeah,
I like the little details like that, right? Just even
smart
in like in
writing.
the world, yeah, like the
Mhm,
world is aware of itself, right?
mhm,
It
mhm,
doesn't feel so much like a staticky linear story, right? So
mhm,
much as like, yeah, the characters are also becoming privy to things that kind of like as soon as the audience is,
mhm.
and such. So
And,
I'm enjoying that.
and it just adds so much weight to the moment where
hmm
we see it as a joke when she's like, "Oh, give me a second glass of wine," and then like,
Yeah,
"Ha ha ha!" It's a joke, but that's what ends up killing her.
it's
Like,
like,
oh
oh,
shit, you
like
all
wait,
laughed at that.
yeah, right. Like, oh, oh, don't
Ugh.
you feel bad now?
Like,
Like,
oh shit. And we were all
oh,
blaming them. Hurry up, bring the drink, stop wasting time. It doesn't matter. They could have got there with a minute to spare, because they wouldn't have thought to give her another
no,
shot. And I
Well,
like those little touches.
or maybe Jen should have. That's what Lily is saying. She's like,
Yeah,
I
she's been.
mean,
I mean, that shows you she's been out of it for a while. Because again,
hmm
when she saves with her magic, she saves Teen. Jen also kind of compliments her for that. Like, you did that.
hmm
So I like that kind of both sides of that, reminding her
yeah.
that she may be bound, but one, is she really? Is it, could it be more psychologically bound?
That's another thing. It's like a trauma
Yeah.
binding.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Where she thinks it's more physical than it is.
yeah.
And does she forget that, okay, even if the inherent magic is gone,
hmm
she's still good at the craft part, because she's still, her
Yeah.
knowledge is still powerful there.
Yeah.
Because that's why she's like, you
Which,
did it, you saved him.
like, who are you without the suit, Jen? Billionaire.
Billionaire, playboy,
The
philanthropist.
boy, philanthropist, perhaps. uh,
But yeah, I'm curious to see who's next in the next episode. Before we're done,
I think
fire and water.
Lilia. I'm guessing.
So what do you think that's going to be? It's going to
It
be
feels
wind.
like Lilia.
I
Lilia
feel like
with the
she's
air.
with
hmm
air.
She's the Avatar.
She's
Avatar
Avatar.
Ang.
She's Aang, the
It's
airbender.
her time. We're gonna deal with some stereotypes and I don't know how they're gonna weave it in, but again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, again, I'm enjoying something with complete freedom and creative IP. Right, there's nothing for me to
Mhm,
research to predict. It's more like, all right, what are we watching today, right? Which is what I enjoy the most in TV. Even if stories are quote unquote predictable, I like for
mhm,
the road in between to at least be like visually just new. So I
mhm,
know we're definitely going to get that. And yeah, I hope they keep leaning even heavier into the tropes that they're playing with, right? Not like don't let up.
mhm. Well, okay. Before we go, here's my crazy out there theory that,
Mhm.
as I say, it is already null and void. So don't take it to heart. But we play a lot with the moon motif in
Yeah,
this show, and then moon has a lot of connection to also witches,
Moon Knight.
rituals, and culture and things like that. That's what I was going to say. Does it connect to Moon Knight, the god of the moon?
That would be awesome. Even
I'm
if
just saying,
even if it's just a cameo, like.
it's the same universe. You never know.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
never know.
mhm, mhm.
I don't think so, but that's just one. If we're throwing out long shots here, that'd be my long shot. That there's some form of connection to
Hmm.
Moon Knight. Maybe that episode in Moon Knight when he was spitting the moon. Maybe
Like,
something crazy, something.
that'd be funny if that happens. That happens here. Oh, that was I don't know. That show
Oh shit!
didn't get a good enough
That show was great.
didn't get a good enough feedback, but I've really enjoyed it. I would love that if they could tie that into here somehow.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I'm actually all for that.
Yeah. What do you nerdies think of the show so far? 4 episodes in. I think it's 4 of 9, I believe, or 8. I can't remember, but we're pretty much at the halfway mark, or coming up to the
hmm
halfway mark.
hmm
Let us know. Find us on social media at the Nerdy Bunch. If you enjoyed this review, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and all that jazz gets more eyes on our podcasts. And if you have comments and messages you want to send us, you can find us on our email, the Nerdy Bunch podcast at gmail.com. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, David.
This has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we spoke about Agatha all along. Episode 4. Tune in next week for episode 5. Check out our other podcasts. We're currently reviewing weekly with the Penguin, which is both villains
Yeah,
and
come on.
storylines. My name is English Dave, and as always, Andrew.
Keep it nerdy.